Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. I am gratified to see today more and more people realizing this thing called spirituality, getting more in touch with themselves. And I'll be honest here. Sometimes I'm afraid to even bring it up because sometimes people look at you like, well, that's a little odd. What are you talking about? And I was in a conversation just yesterday and started talking about a lot of this and was refreshed to hear what was coming back, that they were on board for it. And I stand true in what I believe. Like, we need to get in touch with ourselves. We need to go within and figure out what's going on. And there's many modalities out there to help you along with that. And there's also lots of professionals that can do that as well to, help you find your intuition, coach you along, change your health, different modalities as well. He's one of those people. Our professional of the year, Chris DiStefano, joins us, and he's got a wonderful, wonderful practice called ScarsdaleHealth.com, located in just outside of the New York City area. And he's back with us. How are you doing today?
Doing very well. Thank you, Steve. How are you?
Very well. And I'm glad, very happy we're talking about this. It was a game changer for me. And it wasn't that long ago, call it 3, maybe 4 years, right around there, where I had a lot of these epiphanies and started realizing what I'm about, who I am, going, I guess, within and realizing a certain number of things, why, why we do what we do, what's causing that, what makes us tick, I guess, as a, cliche would be. When we talk about going within and just really figuring it out, how do you describe it?
Okay, so first off, I'm going to sidetrack a tiny bit. You use the word spirituality. I don't want anyone to become attached to it. I'm talking about consciousness. There is no religion in this. This is
Yes.
all we're made of. And
Yep.
I want people to be so clear about that. This is non-dogmatic. This is connecting, because when we connect to consciousness, we're integrating conscious and subconscious. So what I've found over the course of my practice, and that's been since 2008, is the more we're able to go to what's underneath. One of my professors used to say, your problem is your life. And the more we're able to get into where the conflict is in our being, the more we're able to release into health. That's actually why a few years back, I started to do more and more coaching. And that's level3coaching.org, because this medicine, and it really is what vibration someone is at. So I do what's called dry needling. That's incredible for sports medicine. And I do it completely no holds barred. I go through the body top to bottom, find the muscle chains, release everything. I have patients who've seen every big name. They're like, you do 10 times more. I'm like, because I want it to hold. And at that level, that's the physical level. I'm going to go physical. I had a patient come in, and this guy, great guy, mid 30s, and his back was out. And he's like, I threw out my back. And I see him once every, I see him for a few visits every period of time, couple of years, let's say. And he's like, I threw out my back because I'm fat. And I said, were you fat 2 weeks ago before your back was out? He said, yes. I'm like, well, then stop beating up on yourself. Stop the negativity. And what's going on? Oh, I'm helping my mother-in-law move right now. I have to sell her house. I have to pack her stuff. I'm like, your problem is the stress and where you're holding it, because everything else in your body has stayed the same. And now this stress is being held in you. So if I want to deliver the highest level of what I have, and a lot of times in the acupuncture session, so I'm certified mental health coach. That's using internal family systems, also known as parts therapy. And I can do that in the conventional way of talk, but I can also access, because we hold these patterns in our body, the mind, the spirit, they all reflect each other. So I can actually help people by finding the areas of stored tension, stored emotion, stored vibration, and release through the body. And the deep relaxation that sweeps over them And a lot of this is done intuitively and it's done as a dance with the patient. And it's absolutely phenomenal, the long-term benefits. So
Hmm.
it's everything.
Yeah. It's funny when we first started, you jumped on the word spiritual or spirituality. And I got you on that. And usually, and I didn't do it this time, and I should have. I say this is not about religion. If you want to tie spirituality, that word, to religion, yeah, feel free. That's you, no problem. But that's not where we're going with this. Some define spirituality as being able to connect with your higher self, whatever that is within you. And the stress thing, you gave up. I gave an example of that with somebody. Is I don't believe many or most of us realize what stress is doing to our health, mentally and physically. Would you say it is by and large the top thing that's harming us?
Yes. So I knew you didn't mean the spiritual in the religious way, but I
No,
just
but
wanted
I
to be
agree
clear.
with you.
I
The
know. I
the
know
one
we
time
were
I
on the
didn't,
same
the one
page.
time I didn't say
Precision
it.
in words.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so this is everything. The body is ruled by the subconscious mind. I have
Yes.
my book that's nearly complete, and I do a lot of things, and I say a lot of things I've not heard anywhere else. And these are truths that have been revealed to me. And one of them is, I would say over 99% of what our body does is unconscious or programmed.
Yes.
Now, I'm glad you agree because most people might say no. I'm like, but what about the immune system? What about when people are under stress, they develop autoimmune? What about the guy eating McDonald's every day and he's fine? And then he goes through a stressful time and he gets a widowmaker. It's all the stress that does it. But even what we would consider I have conscious control over, let's say I'm going to touch my head. That's only intent. I don't know how many muscles I just fired. I didn't tell them how to fire. I programmed that movement when I was an infant, and my body has been executing it ever since
Hmm.
upon intent, but not direct command. I can't fire a single muscle, except for maybe the tongue. I don't know. I can't fire a single muscle. I can request that a series of muscles be fired to execute a command.
That figure, the 90-ish% of us being our subconscious, I've heard it a ton of times. I'm right there with you. Um, I've always wanted to ask this question based on that.
Yes.
If that's true, and I believe it to be, as you do, if only 10% of us is conscious, like look at our conversation today. What part of this is if 90% is our subconscious running on programs from the past, how much of our daily life, just a conversation that we're having here today, how much of that is quote unquote conscious?
Are you aware of how you were moving your hand while you were speaking?
And I was also aware of you watching me. I'm watching everything, man. Everything.
So that was happening at the level of the unconscious. That's an expression. It's the energy is moving and our bodies follow with it. So we're in the dance. How much of this conversation? The information we have has been programmed and conditioned. We have belief systems underneath that as well. One of the most powerful things, actually, I'm going to go right into it. What I love is working with people that are over analytical, the really tough cases, the
Hmm.
fun problems to solve, the ones that have failed with everyone. Why? Because all of this subconscious, particularly with the over analytical, because that's what I was, that's what the depression was, and all this other stuff. I know we haven't gotten there, is hidden behind these resistance patterns. And so we consciously are unaware of what we're doing largely because now we could think of resistance conventionally. You're going to think of resistance as something stopping you or tight muscle or whatever it is, right? That's resistance. Resistance is pain. The better resistance, and better is air quotes, this is the one that's real slippery, the one we hide from ourselves, is where we don't even feel it. It's the
Hmm.
numb. It's what we bypass. It's what the pain distracts us from. If you look at internal family systems or other parts therapies, Frequently, the loud part is going to be what we're allowed to express, the anger, the rage, the even the hurt. But what's hidden underneath there in the parts of the body, and this is part of what I do when I'm working, I may press with about an ounce of pressure on someone's ribs, and they will believe that I stabbed them with a knife because that area of the body has turned itself, it's protected itself, it's almost sequestered itself. That's also representative of that area of the consciousness, that felt experience. And so when I find that point and then we're able to release it somewhere else in the body, that opens up that area of the consciousness. That's also going to help the immune system. That's going to help the arthritis. That's going to help the digestion. All of this. So there's this dance between this small fragment that we call conscious, which is almost all programs. And in the coaching, it is looking at where the fears, the doubts, the false beliefs, the self-doubt, lack of trust, because all of that is held in this protective armor. Now, I used to have this too, and the armor is fantastic. It's a prison. It prevents us from getting out. It prevents us. How do I connect you? I connect you through vulnerability because that's the authentic connection. If I'm presenting as a character, then we're not going to connect. It's not a real dance. There's nothing. So it's really that is the level of, to answer your question, that's the level of communication. It's when it's done at the heart level. Now we're starting to hit 20%, 30%, 40%, and not just connecting with the mind with all of its defensive patterns, connecting with the heart.
You've mentioned the heart connection before, and I want to get back to that. But before we jump there, the prison is a great analogy, and isn't the reason we're in these prisons, whether we put ourselves in or not, it's there to protect us. That's why we're there. But maybe it's overprotecting us, our subconscious.
So for me, and this is going into, again, the over analytical, the highly logical and rational, we want to control our reality because we experienced what it was when we were young to be out of control. We experienced pain and hurt from it. So we try to confine our reality to what we can know and what we can predict. The attempt to predict is what we would call worry. So we start churning over possibilities. It becomes compulsive, obsessive, and loud. What's wild about it, and this literally hit me last week, the rational mind does not tell the truth no matter how hard it tries because its data set is so grossly incomplete.
Mm.
But it starts screaming, screaming, screaming. You have to do this. You have to worry about this. You have to control that. You have to protect this. Yes, it starts with the best intent, but it starts when we're so young. And then it starts existing just for itself and it starts protecting itself from being usurped because it believes its protection is so valuable. The best way to approach it is with curiosity, love, and compassion. It's not trying to create the pain. It doesn't even know it's trying to. It doesn't even know it's doing it. And so to balance out that rational is an exploration into the heart, into the right side of the brain, into the visual, into the creative, because that has the connection to divinity, to the infinite. There I go with religious words, to the infinite, to the expanded consciousness that does have the whole data set, but can't present these fantastic, beautiful answers that the rational mind can. And that's where we need to learn to feel and hear and know and see our guidance, which is just so faint, but we have to trust it because that is the opportunity, the path. When we make a decision from fear, we will be redirected onto our true course. That's our guidance for where to go at the fork in the road. That's the guidance for how to open our heart, how to be
Okay, well,
present.
let's go there. Let's go. We're we're at a door. Um, Say that again. When you make a decision based on fear, you will get to the core. I want to make sure I process that properly.
Okay. So I'm going to go a little bit into this. This is another, my book, I swear will be done eventually. This is another chapter because It's pain versus pleasure, but it's not the way we would normally process. When we make a decision, we get to the fork in the road. There's going to be the decision that is true and authentic to who we are. Let's say, and the example I'll give is, I am going to go to school. I really want to be an artist, but I'll never succeed as an artist. I won't make any money. So I'm going to be an accountant like my dad told me. I'm going to go to college for that. I'm going to start to feel resistance. I'm not going to love it. I'm going to get a job. The job isn't going to quite fit. My life is so as I progress through life, the wind is going to keep trying to push me back. The forces of the world, internal forces, I may develop body pain. I may develop anxiety.
You're
And they'll
miserable. You're
and
miserable.
yes, and they'll try to push me back to my true path where my heart sings, because that is trusting in the abundance and the infinite nature, which is the consciousness which creates us. Our reality can be compared to a dream. In a dream, everything is you, and you create these stories for you to have an experience. We are co-creators of our reality, whether we choose to be or not. We are.
Yep.
So clearing out that noise, working in conjunction with our heart, tapping into and feeling that wind. So what happens is I make a series of wrong decisions, air quotes wrong, there's no such thing. And these are learning experiences. And I keep getting an opportunity to go back to the path I should be on, to be authentic and true to who I am.
Mm.
And frequently, I'll be like, no, no, I have to stay with what's safe. The world told me this. My parents told me that. At a certain point, it becomes untenable to continue on that path. And usually we might call that hitting bottom. That's where a lot of us find our faith. The faith in ourselves, that
Yep.
trust,
Yep.
is something that is not easily earned for a lot of us, but it's worth it. And that's where we find the faith and begin to listen to our heart. And what's wonderful about that is when we're on the wrong path, all of our energy is fighting ourselves, trying to stay on that path and trying to push ourselves off that path. When we begin to follow our true path, then the wind is at our back. And then we begin to become more attentive to the subtle, and we can pick up the signs of this feels true to me. And we begin to have our heart sing. We are entering into that life of joy. Now it is no longer pain avoidance. No more decisions made on scarcity. Now it
Yes.
is joy overflowing and living our best life for ourselves and those around us.
Completely clear. It really is. And your example of somebody with the fork in the road, and the one fork is an accounting job. Your parents want you to do it. Dad did accounting. He wants you to follow in his footsteps. You don't want to do that. That's not you, but you're going to do it. But you really want to be an artist. It's in you. You're creative. You feel that's your purpose, but you pivot over to the accounting situation. And the visuals I'm getting from you is that's somebody climbing a mountain. The wind is hitting them. Now there's a rock just hit them in the wind. Something else hit them as they're just moving their life forward as an accountant. They don't want to do it. And that's the physical pain and or dis-ease that afflicts them. Call it those things coming at them, but it's you, it's your body saying that's not what you're supposed to be doing, but you're still doing it. I want to ask you, based on that analogy, you
Yes.
said before that it almost sounded like, for the art person, the person that feels that they should be an artist. And but I'm not going to make any money. It's not going to work. I'll just be an accountant. It almost sounded as if you said that opportunities show up. That they keep showing up and you push them away. Now, not like let's say somebody, reaches out and says, "Hey, I need a logo designed." Chris, can you do the logo? I know you're handy with the art thing. Can you do that? And you're like, I can't. I'm busy over here being an accountant. Is that the universe throwing things at you, trying to remind you that, hey, you really should be doing art over here? Hello, I'm trying to, universe is speaking. Hello, there's another opportunity. You're just blowing it off again. Um, is is that does that happen, in the universal world?
It's even bigger than that. The answer is always in front of us, in us, of us, at any moment when we're ready to listen. So that person, aside from having most likely health problems, there's going to be tight muscles from suppression of who they truly are.
Sure.
They're going to start getting worse and worse bosses. They're going to have instability in that life of air quote security that they're chasing after. Oftentimes, it will present in all facets of the reality. And there will be, when they are ready, the opportunities will always be there. When we are in the authenticity, the opportunity is there because we are in a consciousness model of reality. So the consciousness precedes the material, much like in a dream. When we are in alignment, abundance will naturally follow. Abundance in love, abundance in joy, abundance. It will raise
Hmm.
our vibration. As our vibration raises, we are more attuned and more able to pick up on that subtle change in wind, and we continue to ride that and build momentum.
Wow.
And it really is beautiful, and it's going to sound strange, but we need to learn to love ourselves.
Oh, yes.
If we don't love ourselves, we will not be healthy. You're literally telling your body you suck. You're literally telling yourself you are worthless. Fix that first. And that's a huge part of what I do because people don't believe they can. But I'm telling you, based on my journey and based on people I've worked with, it's not hard because it is what we are. We are joy. That's our essence that gets occasionally occluded by false belief, doubts, and fear.
Truer words could not be spoken more than what you just said. And it's such a cliche. You need to love yourself. Most of us don't. We we feel guilty. We feel, oh, I got to take care of others instead of taking care of myself. But that is the true connection with yourself. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not to get to that point. Most people can't even walk in front of a mirror and look at themselves, nobody else around, and say, I love you. I actually love you. You're pretty awesome. Do you know that? Most people can't. In fact, I'll bet you some people would be reduced to tears trying to do that, look at themselves in the mirror. But wouldn't you say, above all of everything we're talking about here, that is the game changer? That's the door. That's the door to the change. Once
That's a
you,
beautiful one, Steve. It really is. And that's actually a very powerful exercise. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. Look at yourself and don't just say it, but feel it in every cell of your body.
yeah.
So I've done a ton of spiritual stuff. I don't, I can't believe I'm going down this path. I've done a ton of spiritual stuff. And another chapter in the book, because it makes me so unhappy, is dogma. In so many different, because a lot of people in spirituality are not happy. We want to change the story. So a lot of spiritual people will say the body is not real. That's a lot of teachers will tell you that. Other ones will say the story is not real. I have news for you. Paradox is real. The body is the manifestation of consciousness in this plane of reality. The body is our projection of an avatar here. You cannot, you may be able to go out of body. That's using what I'd call the right side of the brain or the subconscious to explore. But the body is home base no matter which way you look at it while we are in this game. And
Mm,
the story is the whole reason for everything. When I have a dream, it's all in my mind. If this were a dream, you'd be part of me. The walls would be part of me. They're all projections of my consciousness. And then I'm assigning a point of perspective. And that's what I would call me. But they're all really me. And why would all of that work go in? What happens in the dream? It's for the telling of the story and for what I feel in it. And I want to hit one thing before I totally forget: shadow work. The releasing of the parts where we don't value, where we don't see, where we don't feel ourselves. That integration, the release of the resistance and that integration is all there is because the more we clear the false in the subconscious, that is health. That is freedom. That is love. That is an elevation of vibration because we're getting rid of what I would call an energetic parasite,
mm.
or it's kind of like a brass instrument with mud on it, and it's not going to play. There's no resonance. You got to knock that thing off, and now you're going to sing.
We're out of time. And I feel maybe the next time we get together, that's where we dig into the shadow work. And I can tell you, full on here, it took me the last 4 years to figure out what you just explained in 25 something minutes. It's
Thank you,
all
Steve.
there. What you just said, that's the game changer. That is the proverbial secret of life. what's going on, why we're not happy, why we are happy. How does somebody find you? How do we connect with you?
So scarsdalehealth@gmail.com or scarsdalehealth.com is my acupuncture site. Level3coaching.org is my coaching site. And there's email information, phone numbers on both of those. And yeah, definitely reach out with any questions. I also have a YouTube channel, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
And a
Um,
podcast that's on the website, the coaching website.
Amazing talking with you today. Every time, when we first got together, it was kind of focused on acupuncture. Now we went in a different direction in terms of, I feel, what's universal. This is what's going on. What's going on in my head? That's what's going on in your head. This is what's driving you. This is what's preventing you from having joy and happiness. A lot of these things. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful talk today. Looking forward next time we get
Absolutely,
together.
Steve. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.